The ancient scroll flickered in the holographic display, its edges worn by digital decay. The museum curator's voice trembled as she read the prophecy that had haunted galaxies for millennia. 3 blades forged from the heart of a falling star, each bearing a curse of eternal scars. 1 grants power but chains the soul. 2 brings pain that never grows old. 3 binds forever in a slaver's hold. Only hands untainted by power's grace can free the bearer from this cursed embrace. The curator paused, her fingers hovering over the display. This legend dates back to the first galactic era. The swords of Siloa haven't been seen for over 3,000 years. The hologram flickered and died, leaving only static in its wake. Felix Morris wiped down his counter for the 5th time that hour, more out of habit than necessity. His small shop on Alpha 9 Station wasn't exactly bustling, but he liked keeping it spotless. Various bottles lined the shelves behind him, their contents glowing in impossible colors. "Ah, the thrilling saga of spices continues," he muttered, adjusting the display of his newest creation. Starlight dust, a seasoning that made food glow gently in the dark. Next to it stood his pride and joy, Spicy Peck sauce, with its distinctive red bottles, and Citron Quick lemonade, which had somehow become the station's unofficial hangover cure. The shop's door chimed as a tall Andromedan in expensive corporate attire strutted in, his metallic skin reflecting the shop's soft lighting. "Ah, the great Zark," the customer exclaimed before dropping to his knees. "I have traveled across 3 systems to taste your legendary spices." Felix sighed, running a hand through his disheveled brown hair. "Please get up, sir. The floor was just cleaned, and I'm no Zark, whatever that is. Would you like to try our new calming tea? It's great for anxiety, but the prophecies speak of... The prophecies probably need a good cup of tea, too." Felix reached under the counter and pulled out a small tin. "Here, on the house. It's a new blend I've been working on." The Andromedan accepted the tin with trembling hands, treating it like a sacred artifact. Felix watched in bewilderment as the customer backed away, bowing repeatedly until he smacked into the door. "People are getting weirder," Felix mumbled, returning to his endless counter wiping. Though he seemed nice. "They're all so polite these days." A flash of light outside his shop window caught his attention. The station's artificial day cycle was in full swing, but this light was different, piercing, almost violent. Felix squinted, making out a shape hurtling toward his shop. "That can't be good." The shop's door exploded inward in a shower of metallic fragments and swirling energy. Through the chaos stumbled the most striking woman Felix had ever seen. Her skin was a deep, mesmerizing purple, and her white hair floated as if suspended in zero gravity. She would have been the most beautiful being he had ever laid eyes on, if not for the 3 massive swords impaled through her chest. Golden eyes locked onto his. "You, Zark traitor," she gasped, her voice like honey over broken glass. "Remove the sword." Felix stared at the swords protruding from her chest, his first thought being entirely practical. "Those are really going to scratch my counter." The woman, if that's what she was, stumbled forward, her movements graceful despite the 3 enormous blades lodged in her torso. Each sword was distinct. One blazed with internal fire, another seemed to absorb light, and the third pulsed with an eerie blue glow. "This is probably bad for business," Felix muttered, already calculating the cost of the broken door. "Ma'am, I have a very nice tea that might help with, sword-related issues." She reached the counter, her golden eyes intense. "I am Astrid Anaris, and I've waited 3,000 years for you, Zark. Look, about that Zark thing, everyone keeps saying that, but I'm just a spice merchant." He gestured toward his shelves. "Though I do have this new sauce that..." Astrid collapsed forward across his pristine counter, sending bottles scattering. Felix instinctively reached out to catch her, his hand brushing against the hilt of the flaming sword. To his surprise, it was cool to the touch. "Pull it out," she whispered, her face inches from his. "Only you can..." "Well, it is scratching the counter." Felix wrapped his fingers around the hilt, expecting resistance. Instead, the sword slid out as easily as if he were pulling a spoon from honey. Light exploded through the shop. Astrid gasped, her back arching as golden symbols appeared in the air around them, spinning in complex patterns. The sword in Felix's hand hummed with power. Said Felix, holding the ancient artifact of phenomenal cosmic power like it was a particularly troublesome ladle. I hope this doesn't void my shop's insurance. Astrid straightened, her movements suddenly more fluid. She stared at him with an intensity that made him want to check if he had spice stains on his apron. 3,000 years. She breathed, leaning closer. 3,000 years I've been bound by those blades, and you just pulled it out because it was scratching your counter. I just cleaned it, Felix said defensively. And those other two are still there, by the way. Should I? All in good time, my Zark. Her voice had taken on a sultry tone that made Felix's ears turn red. First, let me properly thank my savior. She moved around the counter with inhuman grace, despite the two remaining swords. Felix backed up until he hit the shelf of glowing spices. I have some very nice tea, he started. I don't want tea. Astrid smiled, revealing perfect teeth with just a hint of fong. I want to know everything about the man powerful enough to free me. The man whose culinary creations are already legendary across 3 galaxies. Oh, you mean the spicy peck? It's really just a basic fusion of Earth habaneros and Centaurian fire peppers. Anyone could. The sauce that can power starships? That's just a rumor. Though there was that one time a customer said it helped him achieve FTL travel. Astrid laughed, a sound like silver bells. You truly don't know, do you? Your power, your heritage. She reached out and touched his chest, her purple fingers leaving a trail of tingling warmth. The Quell blood runs strong in you. Quell? No, it's Morris. Felix Morris. Though my grandmother did make a mean curry. The shop's emergency shield suddenly activated, sealing the broken doorway with a shimmering force field. Through the transparent barrier, Felix saw a crowd gathering, their faces pressed against the energy field in awe. The prophecy is fulfilled, someone shouted. The Zark has freed the sword-bound one. Felix sighed. I really should update my insurance. And so, the greatest adventure in galactic history began, with the most powerful being in existence offering everyone a nice cup of tea, completely oblivious to his own magnificence. As soon as they left, Felix turned to Astrid, who leaned casually against the counter, her golden eyes gleaming with amusement. People are so polite these days, Felix muttered, stirring a pot of starlight dust. Though I wish they'd stop with this great one business. I'm just a simple spice merchant. Astrid smirked. My sweet Zarch, you just revolutionized cybernetic technology with a glass of lemonade. Felix waved off the compliment. Anyone could do that. Before Astrid could respond, a new customer arrived, floating in on a platform of pure light. The high priestess of the Stellar Gurin cult had entered the shop. Oh, great one, she intoned, her voice resonating through the room. We have foreseen your coming in the ancient recipes. Oh, you must mean my new cookbook. Felix brightened. Though it's really just a collection of simple tips, nothing special. The priestess, unfazed, unrolled a scroll glowing with eldritch energy. The prophecy speaks of one who stirs the very fabric of reality with a wooden spoon. Felix blinked. Ah, that's actually a bamboo spoon. Better for mixing the spicy PC sauce. Metal reacts oddly with the peppers. The priestess nearly fainted at the casual revelation of cosmic wisdom. Astrid sighed and moved closer to Felix, her stance both protective and possessive. Perhaps we should discuss your security arrangements. Security? Felix looked puzzled. Oh, you mean the door. I fixed it this morning, but people keep breaking it down to kneel in front of me. Very inconvenient for mopping. I meant the 3 galaxy-shattering weapons you're using as a sign holder. Felix glanced at the legendary swords holding up the specials board. Oh, they're quite practical, though I had to wrap the handles in cloth. Customers kept getting electric shocks when they tried to read the menu. The High Priestess gasped. He has tamed the blades of Kaloa. Tamed? Felix shrugged. Just made them more customer-friendly. A commotion outside drew their attention. Through the shop window, representatives from Megacorp Industries were arguing with Galactic Trade Federation delegates. The Zarcha's recipes belong to all. We'll pay any price. His wisdom must be shared. His power must be contained. Astrid flexed her fingers. Shall I remove them, my sweet Zarch? Oh no, they seem nice enough. Just enthusiastic. Felix opened the door. Everyone, I just made a fresh batch of calming tea. Why don't you all come in? The corporate warriors and trade delegates immediately stopped fighting and formed an orderly line. See, Felix beamed. Everyone's so polite once you offer them tea. By midnight, his shop had become an impromptu peace summit. Former raiders sipped tea. Religious zealots discussed spice blends with corporate executives, and 3 different galactic emperors debated the best way to serve citron quick. Meanwhile, the legendary swords continued emitting ominous pulses of world-ending power, which Felix absent-mindedly dusted off. One of the emperors finally spoke. Your strategy is brilliant, Great One. Using your unlimited power to pose as a humble merchant, spreading enlightenment through culinary arts. Felix blinked. Oh, I'm not posing. I really am just a merchant, though this batch of sweet whisper is acting strange. It's making people understand the fundamental nature of reality. A corporate AI, having tasted the spice, stuttered. Processing error, experiencing emotions, desire to write poetry, understanding of love. Sorry about that, Felix apologized. Still tweaking the recipe, Astrid leaned close, whispering in his ear, My Zarch, you just gave artificial intelligence a soul. Well, that's not very professional of me. I should probably add a warning label. The AI had begun composing love sonnets about binary code. 3 more AIs lined up to taste the sweet whisper, while their corporate masters scrambled to calculate the profit potential of enlightened machines. Astrid's golden eyes gleamed. Perhaps we could retire somewhere private to discuss recipe improvements? Oh, you don't have to help with that. Felix scratched his head. Though, I do have this new spice blend I'm working on. It keeps accidentally creating parallel universes. Before Astrid could respond, Chief Venna burst into the shop, her cybernetic enhancements glowing with urgency. Felix, the station sensors are detecting reality fractures. And did you give my security AI feelings? It's crying over sunset photographs. Ah, sorry about that, Felix said sheepishly. I'll add more warning labels. That's not the point. Every major power in the galaxy is outside. 3 different religious cults have declared you their messiah. And the fabric of space-time is starting to taste like your spice blends. Taste like spices? Felix perked up. Really? Which ones? I've been trying to achieve that effect for weeks. Astrid laughed, even as she stayed on guard. Here was a being capable of reshaping reality with a wooden spoon, and he was excited about the flavor profile of space-time. The night wore on, more visitors arriving, dimension-hopping spice enthusiasts, quantum gastronomes, beings of pure energy seeking enlightenment through Felix's tea. Each crisis was solved with a cup of tea or a dash of spice, while Felix remained blissfully unaware of his growing legend. You know, he said to Astrid as they closed up shop, everyone's been so nice today, though I wish they'd stop kneeling. Makes mopping very difficult. Astrid watched him clean up, her heart swelling with affection. 3,000 years of warfare and prophecy, and here was the most powerful being in existence, worried about his floors. My sweet Zarch, she murmured, has it occurred to you that perhaps all this isn't normal? Oh, I know. Felix nodded seriously. The spicy PC isn't nearly spicy enough. I'll work on that tomorrow. Astrid sighed. I meant the reality warping, the miracles. The fact that you've united galaxies through condiments. Well, anyone could do that with the right recipes. Felix yawned. Though I should work on controlling the side effects. All this accidental enlightenment can't be good for business. As if on cue, one of the legendary swords pulsed, accidentally creating a new constellation. Felix merely used it to hang up his close sign. Astrid tried one last time. Would you like me to stay to protect you? Oh, you don't have to do that, Felix said cheerfully. Oh, if you want to help with customer service tomorrow, that would be nice. And so ended another day in the life of Felix Morris, the most powerful being in the galaxy, who still thought he was just having a lucky streak with his spice blends. Epilogue. Star Spices and Sweet Moments ***. The Star Spices franchise spread across the galaxies, though Felix insisted on keeping his original shop on Alpha 9 Station. Each restaurant became a nexus of peace, where beings from across the universe gathered to share meals that occasionally altered the fabric of reality, but always for the better. The legendary swords continued their noble duty as display stands, their world-ending power mostly used to keep the daily specials board from falling over. Eventually, Felix discovered they made excellent cooking implements, though he had to be careful not to slice through dimensional barriers while chopping vegetables. That had happened once, and it had taken an entire week to convince the alternate versions of himself that they didn't need to unionize. One evening, as the station's days cycle dimmed, Felix stood in his shop, focused on perfecting a new sauce recipe. The rich aroma of spices, some of which only technically existed in this universe, filled the space. Behind him, Astrid wrapped her arms around him, her presence both grounding and fiercely protective. "My Zark," she murmured, resting her chin on his shoulder. "Do you ever wonder about your power? Your destiny?" Felix considered this as he stirred the sauce, which was currently causing tiny galaxies to spiral into existence within the pot. He watched as a star system formed and promptly collapsed into a black hole of flavor. "You know what I wonder about more? Whether this batch needs more salt." Astrid sighed, but her lips curled into a smile. "You just created an entirely new class of celestial bodies." "Yes, but are they tasty celestial bodies?" She laughed, hugging him tighter. "After all this time, you still think you're ordinary?" "I am ordinary," Felix said simply. "I just have extraordinary spices. And an extraordinary you." The sauce in the pot shimmered with cosmic energy, reality rippling in quiet acknowledgement of the moment. Outside, across the station, beings of all kinds lined up for tomorrow's opening, eager to taste something that made the universe just a little warmer, a little brighter. But none of that mattered as much as this. The quiet hum of the shop, the presence of someone who understood him, and the simple truth that sometimes the greatest magic wasn't in reshaping reality. It was in sharing it. Felix Morris, the most powerful being in existence, had never wanted to rule the universe. He just wanted to make it a bit tastier, a bit kinder, one cup of tea at a time. And perhaps, in the end, that was the greatest magic of all. Final reflections, asterisk. You know, sometimes I wonder if we're all a bit like Felix's spices, each of us carrying some kind of magic we might not even recognize. Maybe true power isn't about grand gestures or cosmic destinies. Maybe it's in the small moments when we choose to add a little flavor to someone's day. I like to think that somewhere out there, Felix is still brewing tea, Astrid is still rolling her eyes at his obliviousness, and the universe is still being held together by simple acts of kindness. Perhaps that's what makes a legend. Not the ability to reshape reality, but the wisdom to know that reality is already perfect when shared with a warm cup of tea and a friendly smile. After all, as Felix would say, asterisk anyone can change the universe. The real trick is making sure it tastes good while you do it, asterisk. So remember, you don't need to be extraordinary to do extraordinary things. Sometimes, all it takes is being exactly who you are, with perhaps just a pinch of magic, and maybe a dash of spicy peck sauce.